Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Uncommon the Build. I am so excited to see you once again on this podcast that chronicles my journey through building uncommon jewelry. It's been about 3.5 months, so we're in month 4, and a whole lot of things have been going on. Some of them have been amazing. Some of them, maybe I would have done a little differently. And some of them, oh, Lordy, totally flopped. But when I started this, I promised that I would come to you in every episode being very authentic. Because I remember walking into the world of entrepreneurship thinking it was just going to be that easy. And it sure was not. So, as we get into this week's episode, I know that I previously came to you talking about the reason I started Uncommon Jewelry, the story behind the pieces, and I still absolutely embrace that. 100%. My jewelry will never just be about a beautiful piece. Of course, aesthetics matter. I like to look good. You caught me on one of my days where I'm recording today, I'm providing a workshop a little bit later, but I still put on makeup. I still have on one of my favorite jewelry pieces, always have earrings. And I could walk in somewhere feeling very confident in how I look today. And that is important as well. That it's just not about the beautiful piece, but it's about how the pieces make everyone feel when they put them on. Now, each piece connects to one of my journeys in life, one of my feelings, or something I really just embrace. However, they provide other women with opportunities to either say, yeah, I connect to that 100%, or yes, but this piece reminds me of this. I was talking to a potential customer at an event, and we were talking about how she was preparing for an interview. And I shared that if I were walking into an interview right now, I may put on this bracelet or that bracelet. I suggested the foundation because for me, everything that I do in life has always been about being a great role model for my daughter. And if I'm walking into an interview and trying to get a promotion, I'm doing that not just for me, but for my daughter, right? I also shared that I might put on the Edge Noir, not only because it's beautiful, it's black, it's sleek, it would match with the outfit that I had on, but it would also remind me that I don't have to be fake and I could be myself and still be amazing and potentially be exactly what the interviewees would want or the interviewers. Uncommon Jewelry is always going to stand on the premise that we're going to provide you with valuable pieces that are beautiful, but that they connect to something in a woman's world. Now that we've been able to do some of that and start branching out, because, yeah, let's talk about the things that worked well and not so well. Going to vendor shows. I went to my first vendor event. It was here in my community. We had one customer in the entire show. It was pretty small. Nobody got sales that day, and it was really hot. However, I learned so much. I spent the entire week prior to the event preparing. And I learned how much it takes to actually prepare. And the funny thing is, which I'll get to in a moment, is I've learned a system now so that I'm not just taking the week prior to prepare, but that I'm always thinking about what's coming next. I also spent the entire evening the night before, and I think I drank a bottle of wine with it, preparing for the actual table. I wanted the table to be beautiful. I wanted my business cards to be there. I wanted things to be ready to go because that was important to me. That morning, I got up early thinking, oh, I'll have time to work out and enjoy breakfast with the dog and all of the things, only to find that once I got started, I needed more supplies. And so here I was scrambling to make a few more bracelets before I headed out the door. I wouldn't have learned that had I not stepped out of my comfort zone and went to that first event. Even though we didn't make sales, the lessons were so valuable that I came home that afternoon, took a nap and a shower, and sat down and developed my system for vendor events. Now I know I have another one coming on July 11. And as I'm recording this on June 22nd, I'm already starting to prepare. Some great things came out of it, and some not so great things. But I learned lessons, and that's what it's all about. I also started doing some online trunk shows, pop-ups that just happen, more live events on my social media. I've had a lot of engagement, but it hasn't produced a lot of sales yet. They're coming because I realized that when that started to happen and I stepped back and started doing my research, my main goal right now needs to be getting visible, getting my name out there and letting people know who Uncommon Jewelry is and what we stand for, because then I know the sales will come. I also realized that creating bracelets, creating something is something that I absolutely love to do. How many of you feel the same way? And when the bracelets are made, and there's nothing more to make, because you know if you keep going, you're going to make yourself crazy with the amount of beads and bracelets and things that are all around your house. And you have to dig into the hard work, which is marketing and selling. It's a different ballgame. And as an entrepreneur, especially just stepping out for the first time, I knew that that was something that was going to be more challenging for me, because working in schools for the years that I did, we didn't have to sell the school. Maybe you do now because there are many more choices. But when I sat in the seat, I didn't have to sell the school. I just opened the doors and the kids came running in. I was the neighborhood choice. I also knew that that wasn't going to be necessarily the same thing, especially in the world of jewelry, because you can buy jewelry anywhere. And the cost of things fluctuates so much that if I want to be known as a highly trusted and highly valued brand, this is where the hard work's going to come in. So where do we go from here? I went to a networking event last week, and someone who owned a bridal boutique suggested that some of my pieces may be perfect for brides in the future. I don't know, possibly. So there's that. Also, as I was sitting at the vendor event for all of those hours, scrolling on my phone, I started to think about, would it be much more intimate? Would it be much more enjoyable, rather than coming out on a hot Houston summer day to a vendor event, but to go into someone's home with a hostess who provides her closest friends with light bites, maybe some drinks, and talk about the bracelets, but allow people to touch them and feel them, connect with them, share their own stories of how they developed their confidence and got clear on what they wanted in life. I know that's the Mary Kay, Tupperware, Pampered Chef kind of way, but I've been part of some of those companies before, and I know that it works. So another idea that may be coming into play here in the near future. But ultimately, I was having a conversation with my dad a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about how the bracelets are very, very beautiful. And I could continue with bead bracelets forever. There are so many different techniques you can use, so many different ways to put beads together, so many different options with beads, high end, low end, everything in between. And I know that that would make me happy. But my goal when I walked into Uncommon was to build a legacy for my granddaughter so that one day in the future, when little Sophia is old enough to take over, if she wants to, she can walk in, it can be handed to her, and she can have a beautiful life. And in order to do that, I believe I need to evolve. And I like nice things. As a matter of fact, I'm going to share one of my newest bracelets with you in a moment and the story behind it. And you'll absolutely understand that. So one day, I believe Uncommon will become a household name, a place where you go when you want fine jewelry. I want to start getting into how metal works. How do you melt? How do you use metal clays? How do you use gemstones? Possibly diamonds in the future. High-end jewelry that, again, looks beautiful, gives high value, but comes with a story. When I think back to my life, I remember a time I was 4 years old. My dad was in the military. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. We were living in Colorado. And we happened to be somewhere. And remember, I'm 55, so that was a long time ago. And they were advertising for this show, Romper Room. It was filmed in Colorado Springs, which is where we lived. And my mom had high hopes for me. And she looked at me and she said, "Do you want to be on TV?" My big blue eyes, my little blonde haired face looked at her and said, "Absolutely." We signed up. I was chosen. And we needed a new wardrobe. But we didn't have the money. So my mom took me to the Goodwill and told me I could pick out 5 new dresses so that I could be beautiful when I was on TV. To me, those 5 dresses were priceless. Of course, I was 4 years old. I didn't know any different. But I will say, I remember the moment I told Miss Susan on Romper Room that I was wearing my beautiful new dress. And she said, "Oh, you are beautiful. Where did you get your dress?" And on national television, I said, "My mommy got it for me at the Goodwill." It made me realize I've always been about fashion. I've always been of the philosophy, when you look good, you feel good. And when you feel good, you do good. But I also, through my life, have learned that there might be times where you can afford the highest priced item, and there might be times when you can't. And that's okay. We shouldn't be ashamed of that. We should never be ashamed that on your very first day of teaching in 1995 in Houston, Texas, that you walk in a dress that you and your grandma designed and she put together for you. You might have looked like you just walked out of the farmhouse in Iowa, but you felt beautiful and you had an amazing day. That is what Uncommon Jewelry is all about. Building something beautiful for women who want to show up as their best selves, no matter their size, no matter their age, no matter their pocketbook, because it's about the feeling that the item gives them. Now, I have been, as I mentioned, building and growing and making all kind of jewelry over the last 3.5 months. I've released several collections. One is the Presence Collection. I've shared that with you before. That collection is based on pieces that a woman would wear on a day-to-day basis. You're going off to the coffee shop to meet a friend. You might be having a lunch with someone. You may be going to your 9 to 5, where you go every day. Your normal, everyday, daily activities where you still want to look like you're put together. I love the Presence Collection. It was the first collection I designed, and every piece reminds me of something about life. Then I moved into what I call the Signature Collection. That collection is a little more dear and near to my heart. That's where I have the foundation and the legacy, the bracelets designed for my daughter and my granddaughter. I have a bracelet that represents the bond I had with my dog and realized how much I missed him after he passed in January of this year. I have a bracelet for my sister and I. Our relationship has its ups and downs, like all siblings have, but it remains strong. And on Mother's Day, I released a bracelet for moms, because we all may do motherhood differently, but that's okay. What doesn't waver is the love we have for our children. Through it all, I kept thinking, okay, these are beautiful. There's a lot of color going on because I don't do a lot of color. So I developed the Noir Collection. The Noir Collection is everything I love about the color black. I have pieces that talk about real life, and I have pieces that help you stand up and realize who you are unapologetically. As we got through the month of May, I started to think about my own birthday coming up. So I turned 55 last month, and my grandma was a big part of my life as a kid. She was obsessed with birthstones. And so I created the birthday collection for my grandma, where every month a new bracelet releases based on that month's birthstone that helps you feel like you are important, because you are. The world is a better place because you were born. The summertime for me is just a great time to start to have some downtime and rest and relax. As a 31-year educator, that's always been kind of that breathing moment. And I embrace the philosophy, work hard, play hard. And that's how Sips of Summer collection was born. Each bracelet in that collection reminds me of one of my favorite fun, fruity summer drinks. And the feeling behind the experience that I had when I would go meet friends, go be with my significant other, go be with my daughter, and enjoy time on a summer patio. And now I'm working on a collection that's very, very near and dear to my heart. The Empowered Collection is all about being a strong woman, having the confidence, the courage, and the clarity to know exactly what you want and accepting nothing less. In May, the first bracelet released, the Signature, which I'm wearing today. This talks about everything about my story, which after that fun event of being part of Romper Room as a 4-year-old, my life had a lot of ups and downs, just like many other women. And I had people in my world who built me up and people who tore me down. And I began to question, was I good enough? And I had to realize that I got to decide who I was, that I got to decide my future, not the people who were judging me. And honestly, they were probably judging me because they were having difficulties with accepting who they were as people. The signature reminds me that there was a moment in my world, and I remember the exact time and date, where I said, no more. I am going to be the woman that I know I can be. I am going to be unstoppable. This bracelet is designed based on a bracelet that I love, that I couldn't afford for many, many years. And although I might be able to afford it now, why couldn't I design it? So the signature, definitely one of my favorites. But I promised you I would tell you about a new bracelet and the story behind it. And this one is interesting. I was brainstorming with a friend about this empowered collection. And my friend had said, well, I really love these beads and I love these beads. And then what about these beads? And we started getting on this big tangent where after a minute, we had several beads in the cart and I was going to have 20 to 25 bracelets in this collection. And I said, no. We need to make this special. We need to make this real. It needs to connect. And so something that caught my eye that day was a set of these beads, marble in color, white and a very light gray marbling. And I couldn't put those back on the shelf. So I got them home and I just kind of sat with them for a little bit and I'd put them in designs and then I'd take it apart and put them in designs and take it apart. And throughout the time, I was collecting more supplies for other pieces and wanted something to really stand out. And if you see me and know me, people know I wear black, I wear white, I wear pink. Look at my house. And I like sparkle. But I like simple also. And if I have a choice, take my time and buy something more expensive or buy something today off a shelf at a discounted price, I'm going to wait and buy the more expensive item. And I happened to be out driving one afternoon, picking up groceries or something random. And I pulled up alongside one of the most beautiful cars I'd ever seen. Now, as you can guess, my car, it is a luxury car, but it's black. All black, black inside, black outside, black tires, black rims, black windows, all black. But this car was exactly the opposite. It was all white with chrome. And I thought, I've driven white cars before, but this one really, really catches my eye. So I drive, go pick up my groceries. I'm scrolling as I'm waiting for them to come out. And I got a little email about being part of an academy that's coming out in October and this and that and the other. So I go down the rabbit hole of checking into it. And it's actually through Louis Vuitton online. And it's learning about luxury goods. And if one day I'm going to go in that direction, I need to start doing my research. So I clicked on it, and the first thing that popped up was one of their newest trunks on their digital line. And it was white and silver. And I thought, wow, that is really standing out to me. Now I've seen two things. So I came home after getting all my stuff, put all the things away, came into my office where my bead table is. And those white marble beads were sitting there next to a couple of other pieces, one of which are these spacers I have. Rondelle, I think they're called, and they have silver and sparkle. And I knew at that moment the next bracelet was ready. And this one is the elevated. Let me just show you. I love it. It's lightweight, but not cheap. High quality. I have the 925 sterling silver, the Rondelle spacers, the light marbling. And when I put it on, it reminds me of the trunk. It reminds me of that luxury car. And it reminds me how something so beautiful can allow us women to feel elevated. Priceless. So now the Empowered collection has 2 bracelets, the signature and the elevated. And of course, there are more to come. A little color coming out in the next ones, but so excited for this new collection. Well, I've officially put the dog to sleep. He was here on the couch with me before I started recording, but I guess he was done with that. But I want to thank you for tuning in to this week's episode. Uncommon the Build. Really, I want it to be that place where you hear the goods, the bads, the uglies, but also follow the journey for uncommon jewelry. Because one day we will be the household name that everyone will go to fulfill their jewelry needs. Have an amazing week ahead. I'll see you all next time on Uncommon the Build.